Hello, and welcome to Ask HG Episode 3. I should think I now have your attention. First of all, this episode of Ask HG was delayed. The reason for this, that I was hauled before Satan and admonished for failing to explain that narcissists are demons, that narcissists are demonic influences, that we are possessed, and therefore Father called me into the fiery inner circle of hell and gave me a very stern telling off, which meant it took me a little while to get back here to talk to all of you good people. And I was told that I was a very, very bad HG, an ultra naughty ultra, and that I should be thoroughly ashamed of myself. And then I realised I was talking into the mirror. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the comments section from Ask HG Episode 2. And remember, if you have any questions for me, just put them in the comments section beneath this video, and they will sit there marinating, awaiting the chomp of HG to provide you with logic and wisdom. And what better than to start off with a tasty morsel of a little dollop of positive fuel from Brittany Kay, who has managed to scrape herself off the walls of her house after literally exploding last week. She writes, "Thank you for answering my sibling question, and in detail to where I understood. You're very welcome." Craig Frost asks, HG, have you ever used a narcissist as fuel? Absolutely. Many, many times. I never take a narcissist as an intimate partner primary source. They are not as effective with regard to the prime aims as an empath. But I have had intimate partner secondary sources who are narcissists. I have non-intimate secondary sources who are narcissists. I have a couple who are lieutenants. I utilise them as attack dogs. I've drawn fuel, of course, from many narcissists. The ones that I deal with professionally, ones that I might just come across in day-to-day life, of course, numerous within my family, and the ones that come wandering into my blog world, the ones that email me, the ones that occasionally consult with me, the ones that comment. So, yes, it's all fuel, and it all depends, as you know, on the ranking as described in the book Fuel. And if you haven't read that excellent tome, please do so now. Adrienne Galotta, who likes to scattergun the comments section at times, and why not? She writes, "Thanks for all your help." You're very welcome. No problem whatsoever. Crystal Carlton writes, "Thank you for doing this, HG." No problem at all. Tara Stewart writes, "Thank you, HG. Can you touch up, I beg your pardon, on the subject where an empath thinks he/she is a narcissist? How to know for sure if an individual's behaved badly and out of their morals once?" Well, basically, the surefire way to determine whether you are an empath is to undertake the empath detector consultation. And you will find a link for that on the Empathic Supernova video. Head over there now, click the link, and it will take you to the place where you can read more about what that test does. Generally speaking, an empath that thinks he or she is a narcissist is one that is suffering from increased emotional thinking, which is corrupting certain of your traits to cause you to believe that you're something that you are actually not. It's quite simple, really. If an individual is a greater or ultra narcissist, they already know what they are, and therefore there is no need to ask, am I a narcissist? I, as the ultra, already know. Greaters already know. Lesser and mid-range narcissists don't know what they are. So of their own volition, and that's important, of their own volition, they will never sit there and go, I wonder if I'm a narcissist. They just don't do that. If you accuse a mid-range narcissist, most likely middle-range type B, they will respond by going, someone suggested a narcissist, what if I am? They're not seriously contemplating it. They never thought about it first. They're just doing that for attention seeking, i.e. to assert control and to gain fuel. A lesser narcissist just brushes it off. They're too busy trying to count with their fingers rather than for the purposes of ever contemplating that they're a narcissist. But it's quite common for empaths to think, oh, I think I'm a narcissist. That's because you will do things which are similar to us, but you do that as a consequence of the erosion of your emotional thinking. And if you want to understand more about this interesting subject, go to the Knowledge Vault and obtain Why Am I Behaving Like the Narcissist? I go into it in greater detail there. Shiva Rocks asks, what is the ground design? The ground design is something that I'm working on which ascertains to bringing certain individuals to account and securing my legacy. If you want to learn more about that, go to the Knowledge Vault and access the various episodes of Knowing HG. Those who have already accessed it, regular readers and listeners, will attest to how interesting and fascinating it all is. It lets you know more about the way that my mind works. It tells you more about the ground design, the people that are within it, and it allows you certain glimpses to try and ascertain who the people are as they appertain to a certain phrase. But if you want to know more about the ground design, it's essentially me bringing certain people to account for the things that they have done and the securing of my legacy. And if you want to understand more about both of those points, access the Knowing HG series. It's vital information about me and very interesting. Narc Injury writes, no question here, but it was funny to listen. Thank you for a good laugh. You're welcome. Entertaining education is always the appropriate way forward. 1717, doubling up there. I like to double up occasionally. Are greater narcissists always psychopaths? No, not necessarily. Are most narcissists also psychopaths? No, they're not. Jen Smith, you definitely are a narcissist. Well, thank you. Thank you for the lessons. You're welcome. I too have learned more from you than any other therapist. Entirely understandable. Keep on listening, keep on accessing my work, and you will learn plenty more. Sanjay Sharma asks, is histrionic personality disorder NPD? No. Nina Hund, I've been following your work now for over a year and I simply can't imagine where I'd be without your knowledge, HG. Well, I could tell you, up shit creek without a paddle. Is it common for us to want to know just who we've been entangled with? Absolutely. Empaths are truth seekers, and that truth seeker trait compels you to want to understand more about the person that you were involved with. Why did they behave in the way that they did? Why did they treat you in the way that they've done? And you have to balance gaining that knowledge for the purpose of securing freedom, but also watching out for the fact that your enemy within, the emotional thinking, will corrupt your truth seeker trait for the purposes of causing you to keep asking questions to which you won't get answers because your emotional thinking won't let you absorb them. And that's one of the effects of emotional thinking. And I explain more about that in the Addiction Triple Package. Al Sitir, thank you so much for answering my question. You're welcome. Love your sense of humour. Strangely, narcs don't even smile. Well, we do actually, although it's not smiling with any emotional empathy. It's as a consequence of the fact that we have learned to mimic the smile in appropriate situations. If you want to learn more about that, go and listen to the video, The Imitation Game. That's very important to help you understand the process by which we mimic you all. Al Sitir dives in with another question. Getting bang for your buck here, Al. My very dumb question for next time. No question is dumb. I don't want to ever hear or see the narc again. Wise words. But is there a chance to get my money back, which he borrowed? Well, first of all, the narcissist will only give you the money back if it suits him to do so. And that's important for you to remember that. You can't manipulate him into providing it to you because you can't manipulate a manipulator. You can make a request and you might strike lucky and therefore receive the payment of the money purely because it suits the narcissist to do so. However, you either write it off because the no contact regime is more important than the money that you're owed, or if the money is of significance to you, then if you have clear evidence that would succeed in a court of law, sue the individual. Use the teeth of the law to get the money back. Don't rely on the narcissist suddenly acting out of the goodness of our heart. We don't have any. Shelley Ann. Hello, HG. I have a question. Bully for you. In previous videos, you have described President Trump as a lesser narcissist. Yes, I have. Now that he has lost to Biden. Ooh, contentious. Watch out. What behaviours can we now expect him to engage in? Well, you're seeing them. The perceived loss is a threat to his control, and therefore this has resulted in the repeated assertions that there's been cheating going on. And it's quite a basic reaction, really, which belies his status as an upper lesser type B. Think about a child who loses a game that they're playing. What do they tend to do? They don't turn around and go, "Oh, well played, chap. That was an excellent game of life there. You really outfought me." Or, "Bravo for you. Absolutely tip-top Monopoly play there. I could learn a lot from you." No, the kid bawls and cries and goes, "You big little cheat." And that's what Trump's doing. You're saying that I've lost. I haven't. If I have, it's only because you've cheated. And that is his knee-jerk instinctive response to the threat to his assertion of control. What can he do? Well, he'll deny it. He'll deny that he's lost. He will threaten. He will create false accusations. He will, from his perspective, of course, believe all of this is true. He's not lying in a sense of being aware that he's telling a lie. And he will seize upon evidence to demonstrate that he is correct. Now, there's a lot of evidence that has come forward, much of it incorrect. Some of it points to questions that need to be asked. And it's not my place at this juncture to pronounce upon the efficacy or otherwise of that evidence, but rather to answer your question in terms of what is he likely to do. The fact is, this is a threat to his control. He has to assert control, and that's why you're seeing the range of behaviours that are occurring. Denial, projection, blame shifting, threat, insult, denigration, all being done to assert control. Sega Cephalide asks, do borderline have empty? Who knows? Is that a code for something? Am I meant to respond with, the Prussian monarch likes tangerines? Okay. Kathy Stopka. I was raised by a narcissistic father, and I had 3 long-term relationships with narcissists. Because of your videos, I was able to recognise a narcissist within a week of meeting him. Your work is amazing, thank you. You're most welcome. Saba Malik. Hi, HG. Hi, Saba. I want to ask that will I always attract narcissists as intimate partners? You will always attract narcissists in all walks of life, intimately, socially, through work, in family, on the basis of you being an empath. If you want to understand why that is, the Addiction Triple Package talks about that. But yes, if you're an empath, and to determine that, use the empath detector consultation, you will always draw narcissists to you. But that doesn't mean that the outlook is a bad one, because you have access to my work. And just because you will always draw narcissists to you doesn't mean that you'll always be ensnared. My work sets out how you can prevent that from happening. Joy Division Mad 1. I feel the spirit of Ian Curtis amongst us. Hi HG, my question is, how does a person with narcissistic personality disorder compare to someone with borderline personality disorder? Well, as I have explained elsewhere, but I'll explain it again because it is a question that often crops up. I don't accept the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. Roughly a quarter of individuals that receive that diagnosis are actually people suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. The other 3/4 are mid-range narcissists. Why? They engage in manipulative behaviour to assert control. They don't accept that they're doing that. They blame it on being borderline, therefore they're blame shifting. They claim to have emotional empathy, but they don't act with emotional empathy. Mid-range behaviour. The diagnosis is a gender-biased one. Chiefly, society wants to think of women as being maturing, empathic, maternal. And the narrow definition of narcissism used by the American Psychiatric Association basically conjures up the image of a narcissist as the typical alpha male, eats what he kills, boasting and bragging, etc., and doesn't give a shit about anybody else. And that's just one flavour of narcissist, as you know from my work. To describe someone as a narcissist is stigmatic, and therefore to use that term towards women would stigmatise them in a situation where it would be preferred not to be the case. So borderline arose because most diagnosed borderlines are female. In actual fact, a proportion of them, as I say, are people who have post-traumatic stress disorder, and a large amount of them are actually mid-range narcissists. I'm not going to go into any more detail about this at this juncture. That's a brief explanation for you because there's lots and lots of questions waiting to be answered, and also it's something that I intend to do a video on as well, so that the absolute information is available. Eddie Duba. Hello, HG. Hello, Eddie. Are you feeling steady? Why would a narcissist stalk you? Well, that's Hoovering. All flying monkeys. Why would they stalk you? Make sure you see them, but not confront you. Well, if you want to understand about flying monkeys and prepare to have your socks blown off, go to Knowledge Vault and access the truth about flying monkeys. You'll learn a lot there, and you'll be very surprised at what the truth about flying monkeys actually is. Why would a narcissist stalk you? Stalking is a form of hoovering, and that is done to assert control over you, gain fuel from you, character traits and residual benefits. NJ Philly, excellent video. I'm loving this new Ask HG series. Are you no longer going to have the live Q&As on your blog? No, I will continue to do those, subject to time allowing. BSET3. Why do narcissists say that the people they've been in an intimate relationship with are narcissists? It is projection. And remember, from the narcissistic perspective, they believe that they are the victim. Now, not all narcissists will accuse the other person of being a narcissist. Sometimes they'll do it and they're actually right, because two narcissists can collide. More usually, the narcissist accuses the true victim, if I can describe the person as that, as being the narcissist. And what is actually happening is they are not a narcissist, but the narcissist views them as that. Why? Because through the narcissistic perspective, the narcissism suggests to the narcissist this person is the aggressor. They are giving you silent treatments. They are gaslighting you. So the narcissist will have had to have read something about narcissism. They do. And because of their skewed narcissistic perspective, they think, hang on a second, that's the way my girlfriend treats me. She's a narcissist. And that's why you get numerous narcissists who think that they're empaths and that they churn out nonsense on YouTube and on blogs when actually they are the narcissist, but they think they are the victim. And I see straight through all of that. But in a relationship scenario, the reason that a narcissist says to the other person, you're a narcissist, is basically a combination of the real narcissist has had access to information about narcissism, and because of their alternative perspective, namely they believe that they are the victim, when they look at the true victim through the lens of their narcissistic perspective, they feel that they are the victim and that the behaviours that the true victim have been engaging in accord with the information they've garnered about narcissism. Charlotte 77, thank you again for answering my question. You're most welcome. Joanne McAvoy, hello HG. What is the highest number of entanglements you have had going at one time in terms of intimate partners? Primary? Only one. You only ever have one. And or secondary sources. Dirty Little Secrets, long distance empaths, online flirtations through social media, and or dating sites. I've had an instance of one intimate partner and 4 intimate partner secondary sources being juggled at the same time, one of which was a dirty little secret. And I have not involved at the same time necessarily long distance empaths. There's been a handful of those, but not in any meaningful capacity. I prefer to get up close and personal with my empaths. Crazy Bitch Clara, HG, you should be a top psychology lecturer. They couldn't pay me enough. Have you considered working in the science or psych field? What's to say that I don't? And changing the DSM. Actually, before you all get overexcited, I'm not a psychologist. And I don't work in the scientific field, although I do, as part of what I do professionally, have certain understandings with regard to profiling, human behaviours, forensic medicine and such like. You've taught me more than any other personality psychological academic has on narcissism. Indeed. And whilst there are some academics that know quite a lot about narcissism, they don't know the full extent of it. How could they? Because often they're invariably, of course, not narcissists, and the ones that are don't realise it. And they're not able to provide you with the full perspective and experience that I have had that I convey to you. Miss J, when the golden period ends with the new appliance, will the narcissist hoover the discarded, disengaged from former intimate partner primary source with pity stories for triangular purposes? Subject to there being a hoover trigger and the hoover execution criteria being met, it is entirely possible that a narcissist will hoover the former intimate partner primary source with pity plays. Namely, this person's abusing me, I've made a huge mistake, I shouldn't have left you, I don't know what was wrong with me, I think I was ill, etc. The vegan villainess. Does your girlfriend know that you are a psychopath? Oh, yeah, we talk about it all of the time. No, she doesn't. Have you told her? No. Does she know about your books and stuff? No. Lilith liberated. I honestly wonder what, if anything, would cause a narcissist to commit suicide. It is actually quite rare. However, when it does, it could be comorbidity with another condition or as a consequence of a fuel crisis. Brittany K. Touche on the Brittany bits blown everywhere. You're welcome. Just know the difference between literal and figurative. Aslin Caron. Hello there, HG. What happens should they get their way? Who? Transhumanism. Artificial intelligence. Sorry, you've lost me. Maybe there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel here. Let's see, the next sentence. How would the narcissist survive without any souls to source from, to take? Well, I think what you're asking me is, how will a narcissist survive without any people, appliances to control and draw fuel from, gain character traits from, and residual benefits? The short answer is, they wouldn't. Infinite Tundra. Violet Sky, where you at? HG wants us to match. Just calm down with the flirting, thank you very much. Otherwise, I'll be sending you a fee for bringing you two together. Monica Hocking. I'm a little bit confused here, but is the person talking a narcissist? Yes, I am. And if so, what the heck are we giving him space? The simple answer is because I give people the best information about narcissism, Monica, and that I've helped millions of people understand about it, and that I have testimonials and emails from people whose lives have been invariably enriched, liberated, and improved as a consequence of the assistance and insight that I've been provided. And so, consequently, yes, I'm a narcissist, and people give me space because they recognise that my work works. Simple as that. Aliza Umar. Good morning, HG. Good morning to you, Aliza. How do you break the trauma bond as quick as possible? Well, what you're talking about there is the addiction and the emotional thinking that comes with it. You can't get rid of the addiction. It's part of who you are. But what you can do is reduce and control thereafter your emotional thinking so that it doesn't mislead you into breaching a no-contact regime and continuing to be beholden and ensnared by the narcissist or new narcissists. The way to do that is to consult with me and do so in tandem with the very useful The Addiction Triple Package. The small cost that you'll pay for that is well worth it in terms of removing the effects of the emotional thinking, reducing the hurt, the pain, the frustration, the bewilderment and the confusion. I will ensure all of that goes away for you if you follow what I tell you to do. And it will mean that you will get clarity on why things have happened to you, that you will lose interest in trying to find out what the narcissist is doing. You won't obsess about the narcissist anymore. That's how you do it. Utilize my information. 3 Rooks official. Question for the eloquent Mr. Tudor. Oh, I'm such a sucker for a compliment. If the majority of positions of power, fame, wealth in society are taken up by narcissists and their ilk, how exactly is an empath meant to succeed in material terms? Well, there are numerous empaths that are successful, just not as many as us. And they succeed because they still have particular traits which will enable them to negotiate a way through the world. It doesn't mean that they are going to be curled up in a ball, crying their eyes out. There are numerous accomplished empaths. Most empaths seem burned out, anxious, working lowest paid jobs, having terrible lives in material terms at least. Is there any way around this? Well, you're correct that some empaths are in that position, but many are not. Many empaths, and of course I've known many in my private life and continue to do so, and I know a huge amount through the work that I do here, on my blog, through my consultations. And many of the people that I consult with who are empaths are successful people, business owners, NASA scientists, in the military, educators. I've dealt with musicians, quite famous ones as well, politicians, stockbrokers, Formula One car racing driver. So there's a lot of empathic individuals who are successful. It's just that more of the successful people belong to our group. A related question. If a society is becoming more narcissistic, does it make sense for empaths just to date and procreate with narcissists? I mean, even good looks seem to be... We seem to have lost the rest of the question there. Well, let's go back to, does it make sense for empaths to just date and procreate with narcissists? In short, absolutely not. We've got the rest of the question back. I mean, even good looks seem to be monopolised by narcissists. What are empaths to do? Easy. There are 7 billion people on the planet, and we are only 1 in 6, which means 5 in 6 are either empaths or normals or narcissistic people. The majority are normals, and you can have a perfectly satisfactory life by coupling and procreating with narcissists and empaths. That's what you do. You stay away from us. You obey the first golden rule of freedom. Once you know, you go. You get out and you stay out. Hilal the new moon. This looks a bit wordy. Have no intention of hurting you. Ooh, starting off like that. I wonder if there's a but coming. Have no intention of hurting you, but, may I pose a question regarding you becoming a narcissist? Yes. You said narcissists don't love their children, correct? And that your mother is a narcissist, correct? Do you think you became a narcissist because you were not ever loved by your mother and abused, and that's why you say narcissists don't love their children? Well, I don't say that on the basis of that's why narcissists don't love their children. I explain that narcissists don't love their children not because of what happened to me, but because narcissists don't have an emotional empathy. Therefore, they're incapable of love. They can't love you. They can't love me. They can't love her over there or him down there. They can't love their friends. They can't love their family. They can't love their children. They can't love their intimate partner. We are absent of emotional empathy, and therefore love stems from emotional empathy. We fabricate the appearance of love, but we are incapable of providing it. And therefore, that's why narcissists don't love their children, because we're incapable of it. I became a narcissist because I had the genetic predisposition towards narcissism. It's fairly rampant in the Tudor dynasty, but it'll naturally have come from my mother, and that was allied with a lack of control environment, the environment in which I grew up, an abusive one and a grade B scenario. If you want to understand more about that, go and listen to my video, What Makes a Narcissist. Very, very important. So utilize that information to understand more about where my kind come from. Okay. Google account asks, hey, HG, do mid-range somatics use mistrust as an excuse not to do things, or do they literally trust nobody due to past paranoia? Well, everybody has to trust to an extent. Even someone like me, I have to trust that the utility company gets water into my properties and electricity. I have to trust them to do their job. But when it comes to the more direct interpersonal relationships, there is an absence of trust based upon the paranoia arising from the need to always assert control. So mid-range narcissists don't use it as an excuse. To them, a lack of trust is genuine, driven by their narcissistic perspective. And therefore, they might triangulate that, say, I have trust issues because of the way that I've been treated before. So they triangulate you with usually imagined behaviour through their narcissistic perspective as the way that they were treated in a previous relationship to assert control over you in this new relationship by saying, I've got trust issues. That's also, for example, if the current boyfriend and girlfriend was to say something to the narcissist which threatened control, the narcissist can use the fact that I've got trust issues, I don't trust, as you identify a basis for deflecting the assertion or the threat, the assertion of control by the victim, which threatens the narcissist's control. Gissel B. Hello, Sir H.G. Tudor. Good start. I apologise if these questions have been asked or talked about before. How does a greater narcissist act around lesser or mid-range narcissist? Plays with them. For example, when you encounter a lesser or mid-range, do you act polite? It depends on the circumstances. Don't forget I'm the ultra. Sometimes I will be polite to them, depends upon the circumstances. Others, I will give them a tongue lashing and toy with them. Do you let them know that you dislike them? Depends upon the circumstances. Do narcissists manipulate each other? Yes. Also, have you ever had a lesser or mid-range try to get physical with you when they get frustrated? Yes. How do you react to that? I disincentivize them, effectively. Isabelle Dubois. Hello, HG. My question is about terrorists. Segues neatly from the last question. Is it accurate to assume that most of them are narcissists? A lot of them are, because of the absence of emotional empathy and also the absolute belief in their cause. They will naturally see themselves as freedom fighters rather than terrorists. Similarly, the attitude of the ends justifies the means, therefore doing such things as blowing up women and children or animals, poisoning water supplies, kidnapping children, etc., all done with an absence of emotional empathy. Not all terrorists are. There will be individuals who are narcissistic, and there will be individuals who are normals, who have no emotional empathy for another nation and its population because they're strangers. And those individuals affected by the behaviour of the narcissists within the terrorist organisation then end up in a position of doing the bidding of those narcissists. In effect, you might argue that many terrorist organisations are somewhat similar to cults, where you'll have a charismatic narcissist, possibly also a psychopath, at the top of the organisation, directing everything, and there'll be numerous narcissists dotted around within that organisation that are utilising the aims of the organisation for their own assertion of control, and there will be normals swept up in that. You could even get empaths sucked into a terrorist organisation. Narcissist draws them in, emotional thinking goes off the charts, and they end up doing things which are contrary to having empathy, but as a consequence of their high emotional thinking. Consider yourself. You may well have lashed out at somebody, driven by the fact that you were being abused. So your emotional empathy is eroded, and you could have hit somebody. You could have been verbally abusive towards somebody. It's not something that you do habitually, but empaths also could be drawn into a terrorist organisation. It would be unusual. Most terrorists are narcissists with a number of normals in there also. RS asks, hello, what is the difference between your child defender package and the co-parenting with a narcissist? The co-parenting one explains to you how to, in effect, parallel parent with the narcissist. Techniques so that you can do that to get as close as you possibly can to a no-contact regime to protect you. The child defender package is all about protecting the child. It's all about ensuring you can take certain steps to protect them vis-a-vis the interaction between the narcissist and the child. So the co-parenting is more about protecting yourself through the maintenance of your no-contact regime. where you have co-parenting obligations, and the Child Defender package is about defending your child from the behaviours of the narcissist. Suck for a buck. Hey HG, first thank you so much for responding back to our questions. You should seriously consider starting up a podcast. Don't you think I've got enough to do without you guys adding to the list? Without doubt, you're the best source out there, thank you, that's true, when it comes to this subject, so thank you. You're most welcome. Question: why does my mid-range ex keep on writing to me? They're Hoovers, but as soon as I respond, the fucker ignores me. Very simple. Mid-range narcissist writes to you, that is the Hoover. When you respond, you provide fuel and demonstrate that you're under control. Therefore, the narcissist no longer needs to respond to you. The narcissist won't because of a sense of entitlement, absence of emotional empathy, and no accountability towards you. Therefore, you're being hoovered and you're giving the narcissist what he or she wants, and therefore, as a consequence of that, they know that they've intrinsically got control. Remember, you've identified them as being mid-range, so they don't know what they are, so they will unconsciously sense that they have control, and you've provided them with fuel, and therefore, in that interaction, the narcissism determines there's no need to answer you. That's what's happening. And accordingly, it could happen the next day as you identify, because you come up on the radar for some reason. There's a Hoover trigger. The narcissist feels the need to assert control over you unconsciously, therefore hoovers you. You respond, giving fuel and control. No need to give you an answer. What you need to ask yourself is, why is the mid-range narcissist able to write to me? Your no contact regime needs some work. And therefore, in order to address that, organise a consultation with me, and that'll enable me to help you in greater detail. But that's what's happening. That's why the narcissist is doing what he is doing, and you need to revisit your no contact regime. Poison Ivy. Hello HG, I have a hard time understanding where the line is drawn between a narcissist gaining fuel from your anger or him feeling criticised and therefore painting you black. You need to go and obtain the 3 interactions with the narcissist, which you'll find in the knowledge vault, and that will explain to you the differences between the provision of pure fuel, challenge fuel, and wounding. And therefore, obtain that, and I hope all is well in Sweden. Joe Roberto. Fabulous opening to the video. Thank you. Wonderfully edited and great build-up to the vid. Thank you. Thought I'd add in the comment section. It all matters to us empaths. Drama, theatrical, Shakespearean. Love it. Now the content is deep. It takes me a couple of times to let it sink in, but not all the time. You repeat yourself to help listeners like me. Entertaining yet meaningful dialogue always. Thank you very much. Vesna VK. HG Tudor, thank you so much for responding to my question about the fading narcissist scenario. You described a fuel crisis that would last until such time as fuel can be provided, with breakdown, self-neglect, possible psychosis, or some kind of stupor. Yes. But let's say there is never such a time. No fuel. Well, the likelihood is there is going to be fuel, because even, for instance, somebody who's in prison will interact with other prisoners, prison guards, will be able to telephone people, perhaps sees a psychologist, and gets visits from people. A fuel crisis might occur whereby if the narcissist fell down a ravine in the middle of nowhere with no telephone and couldn't be found, a fuel crisis alongside the problems of injury, starvation and dehydration would occur. And in such circumstances, it's likely that the individual will probably dehydrate before the outcome of the fuel crisis does for them. But theoretically, they would be driven to lose their minds. Chloe T. Mr. Tudor, I would like to know how the super empath contains the generic traits and the special traits, yet they also have more narcissistic traits. You need to go and read the book Sitting Target. That explains all about the empathic traits, the class traits, and the special traits, which all empaths have. You can still be empathic even though you have narcissistic traits, because narcissistic traits can be used in a healthy way. Hello HG, I would like to know how to obtain something from a lower greater or an ultra like yourself. I got my foot in the door. I thought I was getting somewhere, but then nothing. I have zero magnet, which could be an issue. I don't understand what that means. I'd need more information from you, Chloe T. This is a matter you need to raise in consultation. Lolita. Hey, HG. Can a heterosexual male narcissist sleep with other men for supply? Don't use that word. It's fuel. So let's start again, shall we? Hey, HG. Can a heterosexual male narcissist sleep with other men for fuel? Absolutely. Many narcissists are sexually fluid. Rukmini Suri. Thank you, HG, for the answers. My question today is, can a person with high narcissistic traits accept accountability? Yes, because they have very low emotional empathy. They are not a narcissist, which means they will have some emotional empathy, which means they can accept accountability. They don't have to reject it. Christialia Antionu, I would love to meet you. Well, that's most kind of you, but it's probably not in your best interest, is it? I am, after all, a narcissistic psychopath. Charlotta 7. Do you have emotions and cry when someone's hurt you? Yes, I have emotions. No, I don't cry. I've never cried as an adult. I was barely allowed to cry as a child. Do you believe in reaping what you sow? Yes, if you're a farmer. And getting back what you do to others. Do you mean karma? No, karma doesn't exist. And think about this. You as an empathic victim, if you're having such a shitstorm now, if karma exists, what did you do in a past life to deserve that? Deep. Charlotta 7. Do you have children? No. Or pets? No. Do you like children? No. Do you like pets? No. The reason for this is because most people who have children and or pets have sensitive emotions. Okay. I have no sensitive emotions. Passion 8 Princess. HG, could you do a video or explain what happens to an IPSS or DLS if they just leave and go no contact with a narcissist? Yes, go and see secondary sources and the narcissist, and that'll answer all of your questions. A brilliant video. You'll find it very helpful. MB, Glittery MB. Hello, HG. In the next Ask, will you share us with one thing HG loves right now and or one thing HG hates right now? Well, one thing that I love right now is my new microphone and the boom arm that it's on, which enables me to record far easier and has reduced, I suspect, the amount of echo that you've been experiencing. So I'm rather pleased with that. And the other mic that I used was white over on the other desk, and this one is black. My mouth's very close to it. So my big black mic is something I love right now. What do I hate right now? Well, where do I start with my hatred? I suppose you're wanting me to look at something that is new, and rather than things that I've mentioned to you in the past. But one of the things that I hate right now is the fact of the idiots that won't think for themselves. I get increasingly irritated by people who won't try and obtain their views about politics, race, etc. from a variety of sources and exist in echo chambers. I am always able to outgun them intellectually, but even still, they just stand there gawping and it becomes a waste of my time. I really think that in such circumstances, a swift kick to the bollocks would be far more appropriate way of dealing with them. So I hate that intransigent ignorance. I don't have a problem with anybody having a contrary view to mine. You're wrong, but that's not a problem. But if you do it in an uninformed and uneducated way, I particularly hate that. Ark Helsin, HG, could you please expand on precisely what you mean by a low control environment? I'm afraid you've given me no context, so I can't. Empathic Warrior Lissy, how come narcissists do not like to French kiss? Because it's intimacy, and we must reject that intimacy. What we do like to do is we can perform a French kiss in order to control you. I'm very good at it, but I only like it in inverted commas for the control and the fuel. I don't like it for the intimacy that occurs. Empathic warrior Lissy, tinkety boo, LMFAO, it's tickety boo. Tickety boo or not so pucker. Narc Helsing, HG, as I'm sure you already know, not all of us who criticise those who praise you in some form in the comments are narcissists. Frankly, I think you deserve credit for what you've done. Thank you. I appreciate that. Your work is impressive, it is effective, and it is important. Also, thank you again. But some people in your comments are clearly suffering from an extremely unhealthy codependent mindset. It's clear they're receiving the knowledge but not making the necessary adjustment in their own perspective. Indeed, and that can happen. It's as a product of high emotional thinking. HG, if empaths and narcs attract each other like magnets, is it also true that two empaths repel each other like magnets? No. You will have a sustainable, healthy and rewarding relationship of any nature with another empath. What happens is emotional thinking tries to suggest that you shouldn't be with that person because your emotional thinking wants you to be with a narcissist. So one of the common things that it'll do is cause a person to think, I can't be with an empath in a romantic relationship. They're boring. Normals are boring. I don't want to be in a relationship with those individuals. And that's just emotional thinking, because those individuals are ones that you'll have a healthy relationship with, and that's logical. Unicorn Diamond, why do narcs go so quiet when fuel is not for them? I don't understand your question. Unicorn Diamond, show your face, HG. Your voice is very commanding and hypnotic. Well, you can enjoy my voice, both being commanding and hypnotic, without seeing who I am. So we both win. There we are. You see, this is what it's all about on my channel. The double win. Green Diamond Girl. Hello, HG. Why do lesser and mid-range narcissists always try to contravene the restraining order? They don't always. Mid-range narcissists often comply with it because of the need to comply with their facade. However, ultimately, if there is a direct conflict between the need to assert control and the maintenance of the facade, the need to assert control will out, and that means that the restraining order could well be breached, and they don't care so much about the facade. Lesser narcissists don't operate facades, and they are more likely to contravene the restraining order. It is important to get one because they are useful deterrents. They're part of the Hoover execution criteria, one of the factors in that, whereby the narcissism in the unconscious determines whether you should be hoovered. And if you have a restraining order, where the narcissist is lesser or mid-range, that means they are less likely to hoover you. Of course, there might be other factors outweighing it, and therefore that is why the restraining order is breached, because of the necessity of asserting control over you. Candace Weber. HGI followed the no contact regime for 10 months, thank you. But I encounter a problem from time to time. You see, the ex-narc lives 40 feet from me and I'm not moving. Query, why not? It's something that you ought to consider. I've avoided seeing him at all costs, but it does happen at off hours. Yes, we pass on the street. I'm stone-faced. Lay off the reefer. It's not going to be good for you in the long term. I think you mean stony-faced. Always in sunglasses, rain or shine, day or night. Why in the hell, as soon as the ex-narcissist sees me, does he whip out his cell phone and start scrolling? What he's doing is, you enter the sphere of influence. His narcissism determines, are you under control? It says in the unconscious, no. Therefore, he needs to assert control over you. At that moment, his narcissism determines that hoovering you is not the appropriate way to do it, and instead determines that he should assert control over you by ignoring you. And therefore, when he whips out his phone and starts scrolling through it, he's in effect ignoring you. Janice Binkley, you cloak as anonymous the group. Do I? I think you'll find I don't. However, I don't believe the narcissist has the idea. Okay. So if you're an accomplished author, do you mean author? An accomplished Arthur. The only accomplished Arthur I know was King Arthur. So totally over. Hello HG, I've purchased 15 of your books. Why only 15? I demand that you purchase more. I read and reread your works constantly. even in your sleep. That's impressive. I think you mean repeatedly. But thank you very much for purchasing them and also for reading them. I'm no longer being played with malign hoovers. Good to see. Thank you very much for that. You're welcome. My question is, what's the difference between upper letter type A and upper letter type B? Well, if you want to learn more about the differences, you can do no better than go to the Knowledge Vault and access H.G. Mall's the upper letter type A and the upper letter type B, and that describes all of the behaviours about them. Very briefly, upper letter type A is the affable arsehole. See what I did there? And upper letter type B, belligerent, bragging, boastful, bully. Again, see what I did there? That's in essence the differences. Want to drill down into more information? Get thee to the Knowledge Vault, and you will then be able to access the H.G. Mall's MAULS system, series of material, and it covers all of the lesser and mid-range subschools, and currently somatic and cerebral cadras. The victim and elite will follow. But if you want to know more about upper letter type A and upper letter type B, access that material. You find it very entertaining and very, very interesting. So wade in there, please. Gamosaurus Rex. Like it, Gamosaurus Rex. Huh? You are the Bantosaurus. Hello, HG. Great video as always. You're doing a great job raising awareness on narcissism. Thank you. And helping others to achieve freedom. Thank you. My question. Some people argue that narcissists are codependent as well due to the need to gather fuel from others. I suppose that you could argue in the wider sense of the word that we're codependent, but I don't like to use that term because codependency is linked to the empath. And if you were to talk about the narcissist being codependent, that starts to muddy the waters. We are addicted to control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. We are dependent upon people to provide those to us, and empaths provide them to us the best compared to other classifications of people. So you are essentially correct in what you're saying. I don't like to use the terminology. It's in the same way, for instance, I talk about how we disengage from you, but you escape from us. Because if you start talking about disengaging, then people will go, is this a narcissist talking or is it the victim? Hang on a second, I'm lost. So the narcissist disengages, the victim escapes. And that clear delineation makes it easy for people to understand. Ditto when it comes to codependency. I only use codependency in the context of the empath. But we have a dependency, a need, a want on empaths for the prime aims. Karen V. Hi HG, I love your dry humour when answering our questions. Good job really, isn't it? My question, what are your thoughts on karma and narcissists getting theirs? Earlier answered, no such thing, and no, we won't get it. Jack Howell, around minute 52, the example of the cat is accurate. Great. That's all good. Now Helsing's back again. HG, does every single narcissist, no matter what, commit narcissistic abuse? Yes, because abuse is varied and has various different forms. Or is there such thing as a narcissist who does not engage in the abuse you describe? No, but it might be that certain appliances within the fuel matrix are never abused because, for instance, they serve a better purpose as part of the facade. And again, if you go to the video, Secondary Sources and the Narcissist, I cover part of that amongst many other things there. Cora B, have you talked about narcissism with your girlfriend? Yes. If so, what has she said about it? Her mother's one, so it came up in that context. Tangerine Fox, I have enjoyed the insightful comments that you have released. Thank you. You're welcome. Since the Nixon is currently quite a hot topic in the media, would you consider putting its leader under the Tudor scope? I already have. And you'll find that in the video about Keith Raniere, which I urge you all to go and have a listen to, because even if you haven't heard about this particular cult, it will give you interesting information about cults, their hierarchy. It'll give a dissection of the behaviours of a narcissist, but also it contains some narc-on-narc action within the cult, which you will find interesting in terms of the behaviours. Charlie Wilson. Hello HG. Hello Charlie. I've introduced a friend of mine to your work. Thank you for doing so. Please, everybody keep doing that. We just can't get enough, see what you did there, of your alluring voice and demos. I guess I'm your personal Jesus. My question is, how can I be sure if I'm being love-bombed or gaslit by a religious group? Part of me feels like I might be, but I also second-guess myself. The second-guessing, Charlie, is your emotional thinking trying to dissuade you from seeing what's going on. What you need is external, objective, dispassionate input, namely me. Book a consultation with me or put the relevant individual through a narc detector and I'll give you the answer. Also remember, what you can do is go to my work in the books Red Flag and Black Flag, read those and compare the behaviour against it. But for the ultimate in terms of confirmation and assurance, the most appropriate thing to do would be to access the narc detector consultation or undertake an audio consultation with me. Tootsie bubble pop. Remember, I have to do it this way, don't I? Tootsie bubble. Is there anyone you would not hurt? And if so, why? No. DWPW. Knowing you're a narcissist, knowing the damage your kind causes healthy individuals, possibly lifetime, do you still actively manipulate and harm others? Yes, I am what I am. I'm a narcissistic psychopath. I always do what is necessary to achieve my aims. If people get in my way, they will be dealt with. Narc Helsing. Actually, can an animal, or any other creature, an intelligent alien species, provide fuel, or must it be human? Well, an intelligent alien species, if it was able to give an emotional output, then it would provide fuel. And an animal, if hurt, their cry of pain would provide fuel, but ordinarily we don't utilise animals as appliances. They're utilised more for the purposes of triangulation. It's humans that come into our fuel matrix. Why? Because of the provision of control, fuel, character traits and residual benefits. Narc free at last. Thank you for the valuable information, HG. You're very welcome. I see lots of similarities between narcissism and psychopathy. What are some of the key differences between the two? Psychopaths have no fear. Narcissists do. Psychopaths don't have an overarching need for control. Narcissists do. What is your perspective on all psychopaths are narcissists? No, not necessarily, but all psychopaths will have narcissistic traits. Many are narcissists as well. Look at me, I'm a narcissistic psychopath. I have the two, NPD and ASPD. But some psychopaths aren't narcissists, but they are narcissistic. Woof, Ollie's my dog. Is he? Lucky Ollie. I'm back listening to your videos again after a break of about 12 months. The question I pose is, will I ever be the normal, carefree person I used to be before I married? Since divorcing my narcissist, I'm not just the same. I like the idea of dating again, and still after 7 years, I haven't. Well, that's pretty sensible, because your emotional thinking will be high and you're likely to be ensnared by another narcissist. You can get back to that normality, absolutely. You're right. I feel I simply can't afford to be wrong about someone again. Very sensible. You can get back to normality, and the way that you do it is you maintain your no-contact regime with regard to the narcissist that you're ensnared with, and you avoid future ones. If you want to know how to do that, consult with me, and I'll set out a pathway, a roadmap to you achieving freedom. And therefore, as a consequence of that, you will get back to that position of normality. Brittany K. Hi HG, bit of a personal question. Of course, you can skip this one if it suits you. Thanks for the permission, Brittany. Why did you stop making YouTube videos for a year? People always said, HG, you stopped being on YouTube. I didn't. I was always there. My videos remained. I just wasn't posting any new ones. The reason being, I was busy about other matters. It's quite entertaining, actually, that even though there are various links on the old YouTube channel to my blog and to my Facebook page and to Twitter, where you would see that I continue to provide new material, moderate comments, generate new material for the Knowledge Vault, people thought that I had just vanished. I hadn't. I wasn't active on YouTube. I am an army of one, and consequently, in terms of the creation of content and moderation, I do it, and I do consultations. I have a private and professional life, and then after those, I deal with all the blog stuff. And quite simply, for a period of time, I didn't have time to deal with YouTube. Is your IPPS questioning where you go when you make these videos? No. She just assumes that I'm in the study undertaking my professional work. Or she might not be around. She might be off going and doing some things of her own. Paula R.A. I've been watching The Staircase, Michael Peterson case. He's a greater, right? I haven't watched it, but I'm thinking that I may well do so because numerous people have mentioned this programme to me, asking if he's a narcissist. From the snippets that have been provided to me by readers and listeners, there is a prima facie case that he is one, but I would have to undertake a proper determination, of course, by looking at the programme to look at that. Autumn Moon, can you please elaborate more upon malign obsession? How is this defined? Can you please describe the characteristic traits that someone with malign obsession might possess, including the drivers for this obsessive behaviour? If you go to my blog and you you search that term on the blog, you will find an article. The name of it escapes me at the moment, and that will tell you more about the malice obsession. It deals with both the malice obsession and the feral obsession. In terms of how it's defined, it basically means that because of the malice that exists, there is a need for the narcissist to continue basically to beat you over the head. And ordinarily, you pop up in the mind of the narcissist because you've entered a sphere of influence, you've texted us, you've come to see us, you've rung us up, or you just happen to appear because we thought of you, a random thought, or we've been reminded of you by a person or by something else. We smell a fragrance, for instance. And in this instance, what occurs is that when there's a malice obsession, it's almost like a stuck record, that the malice keeps us thinking about you. Ordinarily, narcissists don't obsess over you. People think that we do. We don't. You become persona non grata. When you're not in our heads, and you're not in heads all the time, it's as if you don't exist. And what occurs when there's a malice obsession is that the malice causes you to keep coming into our head, into our head, into our head, into our head. So there are repeated Hoover triggers over and over and over again, which increases the likelihood of there being Hoovers, namely malign ones. Werner Goddard. Do narcissists believe in the afterlife, heaven and hell? If it suits us, yes we do. And of course, unaware narcissists will believe in the afterlife with complete conviction because they don't realise that they're narcissists and they don't realise that their conviction is only predicated on the basis of control. Laura Cox. Hello HG, will some empaths always look back on the relationship with the narcissist and feel sadness? Not every empath will. Some empaths will do so long as their emotional thinking remains high. Reduce your emotional thinking and it'll stop you lamenting. Narc Helsin, do you actually enjoy sex, the mere act of it, the sensation, or only for the control fuel it provides? Go and read the book, Sex and the Narcissist. You will find that very, very interesting, very, very useful. And it'll answer a whole series of questions that you'll have about narcissists and sex. Stephen Posfahala, two-parter coming at you, rather. Can a narcissist or empath change classes, schools? No. Also, what do minions smell like when roasting? There are top notes of vanilla and cinnamon and low notes of sandalwood. Not Helsin, do you consider yourself sadistic? I don't consider myself sadistic at all. I know that I am. Not Helsin, what is your brother like? What is your relationship like with your brother and sister? You can read about them on my blog and in my books. It tells you more about all of that. Not Helsin again. I'm sorry that you faced abuse as a child at the hands of your narcissist mother. Don't be sorry, you didn't do it. It's not your fault, and I don't want your pity. Your tone when you speak of it makes it sound like a very sore spot. Well, it wasn't particularly pleasant, I can tell you that. If you don't want to share, but if you will share, what kind of abuse did you endure? How were you abused? I was abused in a number of ways, physically, emotionally and sexually. I'll be writing about it in due course. You'll garner some of it by, again, reading on my blog and my books. Susan D. Hi HG, would you kindly make a video on the lesser narcissist Chris Watts? I actually already have done so, and I will probably revamp it so that more information is provided about it. Rumpelstiltskin24. Do you bring your appliances back to your home? Yes. How do you explain the giant shrine to H.G. Tudor then? There isn't one. I don't make a shrine to myself. It's other people that make the shrines, so they're in other people's houses. So that's all right then, isn't it? Catherine Dorman. HG, can you expand a little on the different schools of empathy, in particular contagion? Different schools are standard, codependent, super, and contagion. You can read all about the codependent in the book Chained. Super empath, there is material on the blog that I have written about that. The contagion I haven't expanded on but intend to do so. With regard to the 5 cadras, you will find more information about those by searching the relevant cadra on my blog, and I will be providing videos about them in due course as well. Sazega Safalade, why are you getting help? I heard you say you don't want to lose your inheritance. What is it? I'm not actually getting help because it's not making any change. I embarked upon therapy as part of letting my family think that they had control over me so I could get on with the grand design unhindered. Being Lady P. Hello HG, is there another way to submit a question for an episode of Ask HG beside commenting under the video? I'm assuming you don't want to ask because for some reason the material's sensitive, because otherwise you're commenting under the video, so just get on with it. I don't assume Being Lady P is your actual real name, although I see a photograph and that might be you, and it might be that you are hesitant to ask a question because you are concerned about repercussions. I would prefer that you ask your questions in the comment section. As you can appreciate, I have various platforms and I get over 1,500 now comments, queries, emails each day, and I can't deal with all of them. And that's part why I say to people, ask your questions here and I'll get through as many as I possibly can in order to maintain the interaction with you all. So unless there is a very, very serious reason why you don't want to ask here, please ask them here. It does make my life somewhat easier and means I can get through more material for you. Gabrielle Winter. Hello, HG. Hello, Gabrielle Winter. On the next Ask HG, can you tell me what school of narcissists would use videos, word salad texts, and cut out parts of songs to provoke a reaction during the devaluation stage? I experienced this and I want to know why. Based on that information alone, I could not give you the definitive subschool. You need to use the narc detector for that. See the video of the same name, or go to the blog menu and in the detectors you'll find narc detector. It's got the smell of mid-range, but I'd need a lot more information to give you an accurate determination. Saba Malik. What school of narcissists are when they use technology like WhatsApp statuses, DPs, double penetration? Last seems to manipulate a long-distance empath and to generate fuel such as compliments, affection, love, admiration, as well as envy, frustration, anger, sadness, hurt, etc. But don't take interest in conversations, phone calls, and this happens for years. And they only use indirect communication. Are they psychopaths? Unlikely to be psychopaths. All narcissists could operate this way, but most likely you'd be dealing with lessers. Annabelle Black. Hello, HG. Do you think there are people who have the ability to possess narcissism and empathy? No. You have not, as I've explained previously, you have narcissistic traits and empathic traits, but if you have narcissism, you can't have any empathy. If not, isn't that just black and white thinking to assume there is no combo? No, because I've just explained there is a combination. It's called narcissistic traits and empathic traits. But full-blown narcissism, i.e. narcissistic personality disorder, meaning that you are a narcissist, means you have no emotional empathy and no empathic traits, so there cannot be a combination. Charlotta 77. Have you ever met someone that you don't want to be a narcissist anymore and almost gave being an arc up? So did I meet somebody I didn't want them to be a narcissist anymore? No. And did I almost give being an arc up? No, I can't. It's what I am. Hi HG, what school of narcissists will not cry whatsoever? Greater and the ultra. Marie E. Why do narc uncles feel entitled to use you as their property and to look down on women? Because they're narcissists. Nothing to do with uncles. It's because they objectify you in your possession. Listen to the video Owned. Stella Parl. HG, according to a later video where you say your mum has NPD, I'd like to ask you, is that always the case with a narc and his mum? She always has NPD or narc traits? No. Not all narcissists have a narcissist mother. Some might not even have a narcissist mother or father. The genetic predisposition comes from further back in the lineage. But it's more common for at least one of the parents to be a narcissist. Lit Tad, HG, is the smear campaign done just to hurt the ex and for the narcissist to feel like one up on the ex? The smear campaign is actually more usually a series of intermittent one-off responses which give the appearance of a campaign to the uninitiated. The purpose of that smearing is to assert control indirectly over the ex and to then allow the narcissist unconsciously to feel through that indirect assertion of control that he or she has control over that ex, along with the person who the smearing has been passed to. So the narcissist says to his friend, my ex is a complete Fruit Loop and she's crazy for Cocoa Puffs, and he goes, absolutely mate, you've been telling me that all along. The friend gives fuel to the narcissist, the friend signals he's under control, and the narcissist feels that he indirectly, and this is in his unconscious, where lesser or mid-range, he feels in his unconscious that he has the indirect control over the former primary source. If you want to understand more about smearing, read the book Smeared and go to the Knowledge Vault, and there's excellent material that talks more about it there. But essentially, smearing is a form of manipulation that is done to assert control over you indirectly to bolster the facade. Catherine Dorman, HG, thank you for your excellent intel. Can you please expand on Type A and Type B? You don't say which school you're referring to because there's upper lesser Type A, upper lesser Type B, middle range Type A, and middle range Type B. As mentioned earlier on, please go to the Knowledge Vault, access HG Malls, and those 4 types there are all catered for, and you'll learn more about the differences between them. Being Lady P. Hello HG, when you say the ultra, are you saying there is only one ultra and that you are he and one are the same? Absolutely. It's Highlander time. Being Lady P. Hello HG, I read your response to a comment on one of your recent videos. In the response you stated that you have had narcissists request consultations with you. Correct. Majority are not narcissists, but a handful are. How far into the session does it take you to determine the person is a narcissist? Well, with some of them, I know that they're narcissists beforehand because I've witnessed their behaviours either on my blog or on other platforms or in the content of their emails to me. With some, I've never had anything to do with them before, and I usually tell within the first 15 minutes that I'm dealing with a narcissist. But as I would say, the vast majority of people are not. They are empathic victims who have made the sensible choice to consult with me to gain help. And our final question, being Lady P. Hello HG, it is me again. Yes, I can see that. If you have been following the legal proceedings of Laurie Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell, do you think that one or perhaps both of them are narcissists? No idea who they are. I better go and Google them, I suppose. So the answer is, I can't give you an answer. And there we are. So thank you very much for all of your questions. If I didn't manage to answer yours, do try again next time. I try and cater for as many as I possibly can, and you will see that I have extended the time because I'm so bloody generous to you all. It's now time for HG to go and do a little bit of manipulation in the real world. No, it is actually. And keep the questions coming. Put them in the comment section. Do utilise the consults, as I explain always. If you have more detailed queries about your circumstances, that's what the consultations are there for. Read the testimonials if you want to gain some kind of comfort and assurance about the efficacy of them. Come to the blog and ask my other readers there about how useful they've found them, and they will explain that to you. They are a safe environment protected by confidentiality where you can give me a lot more information, which then helps me to help you to the maximum. And everybody finds them effective. Alternatively, go in the Knowledge Vault, and there's a wealth of material there. If you need any recommendations, email me and ask, and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. I've created that material because there's only so much time that I have available to consult, and therefore the material in the Knowledge Vault is like a vending machine that you can go there and immediately access the material without waiting a response from me. And I cover so many different aspects of the narcissistic dynamic, the no-contact regime, and so on and so forth, that will help you. It's there for your benefit. That's why I've created it. Thank you very much for listening. Do post your questions in the comment section to this video, and subject to me getting dragged in front of Satan again next week, I'll be answering all of your questions. In the meanwhile, spread news about my work, ensure that people subscribe, ensure you subscribe yourselves, seize the power, and remember, once you know, you go, get out, and stay out. I'm HG Tudor, and this has been Ask HG, Episode 3.